Are you feeling drained even though you're doing everything right? In today's episode with somatic and holistic health coach Mitch Webb, we explore how listening to your body and not just your to-do list can help you rediscover calm, energy, and meaning in your daily life. You'll walk away with small, powerful shifts to regulate your nervous system and start feeling alive again. Stay tuned. Welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm Kendra Nielsen, wife, mom, and licensed therapist. Do you ever feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still exhausted and empty? Did you think life, marriage, and parenting would be simpler and more rewarding? Sometimes you just want to crawl back into bed and lose yourself in screen time and chocolate, rather than face that personal or family stress. You are not alone. This podcast helps you break free of the rat race and build a richer, more meaningful life, flourishing incrementally and realistically, improving your mental health and wellness, and living with deeper purpose beyond the mundane, no matter where you are in life's journey. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest with us here. Mitch Webb is a somatic and holistic health coach who helps high performers, entrepreneurs, and those struggling with chronic symptoms reconnect with their bodies and reclaim their energy. After years of burnout and trying every quick fix, Mitch discovered that true healing begins when we learn to regulate the nervous system and live in alignment with it. So thank you, Mitch, so much for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
You're from North Carolina, is that what you said?
Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm right in the middle.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I would love to go there right now. But yeah, we're excited to have you on to share a little bit about things you're passionate about and have our readers learn from your wisdom. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got in this space and why you love it?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to share how did I get into this space. I got here through the School of Hard Knocks. I had my butt handed to me through several health issues over the years and wanted to figure that out. When all of this happened, I was working in the corporate world and I realized that the way things are going, I wasn't going to get better in that environment of high stress. I wanted to do things differently. When I got into the healing world, I had Lyme disease and heavy metals. I had metabolic issues and head injuries and Lyme disease and so much stuff going on. It was really hard to understand what was going to get me out of those symptoms. Information was all over the place. I started sharing what I was learning and ultimately found my way to the nervous system after I exhausted myself with all the biohacks and health hacks and different restrictive nutrition plans and exercise that was, way outside of my capacity. And now just kind of have a balanced approach to everything that I do and just teaching people how to take care of themselves and support their lives instead of optimizing and fixing and trying to be perfect.
I'm really excited about this, but especially that you talk about balance. I feel like there's a lot of coaches out there that work with most of the high performers I know are very unhealthy, lack balance, and they don't listen to their bodies. They're not people I would follow because they're not really practicing what they preach or they're living a very chaotic lifestyle. Do you find that as well with your clientele or people you speak to?
It's funny when you say that, you slow it down and see these patterns and these high performers. It looks like OCD and overriding the body with force, which ultimately says, I've got to fix this. I've got to figure it out. It tells the nervous system there's a constant threat. We're always running and being chased by a tiger, whether we know that or not, but we package it in a way that looks appealing. That's the new hottest thing. If I talk really fast and I shame you and I tell you should be doing better, that's going to hit a chord in you and you're going to want to be fixing and doing all the things like me. And I did that for a while and it took more away than it gave. Reassessing things and trying to understand what I want and seeing that this type of lifestyle that is attractive to some, it's because we're in such a high level of fight or flight. We're not listening to our bodies. We're trying to force it because ultimately we think we're not good enough or whatever that motivating factor is. So I like to understand what's the motivation, what do I actually want, and is it necessary to do all of this? Ultimately, it feels like noise, avoidance, and performance. Those are three things that are going to keep the nervous system dysregulated, and in chronic symptoms, I'm about moving away from that stuff.
I love to hear that. Somebody else speaking like that is refreshing. You mentioned a little bit that your burnout led to true healing. When was the moment that you realized something had to change in your own life, and what did healing start to look like for you?
For me, it was exhausting, trying everything that I thought was going to help me feel better ended up feeling like obligation. It felt like a chore. In the beginning, it was new and interesting, and it was change. And instead of working harder, I had to learn how to look inward and see the motivating factors behind the behaviors that I was engaging in. Ultimately, it was never good enough. It started to look like perfection and people pleasing and a lot of these protective mechanisms that we take on to receive love and get attention and be validated. And so it makes sense, right? But ultimately, I wasn't getting more energy. I wasn't sleeping better. I wasn't having better relationships. It was doing the opposite. As someone who had dealt with that for a long time and was willing to do, like I'd say to anybody that was working with me as a practitioner, I'll do anything. And that's what it was. And so after I'd exhausted all the supplements and hacks and different diets and doctors and all the stuff, I saw I'm the medicine I wanted. Me searching out and reaching for something is ultimately me and my younger parts and dysregulated traumas that I've experienced asking for help. And luckily enough, I got exposed to the nervous system and slowing down, meeting sensations instead of moving away from them, respecting my bodily sensations instead of trying to fix them and override them. It's just being in the dark night of the soul over and over again. That's really what it takes to be in this work. I wish it were different, and that's why we're having this conversation, because preventative approach to this is a whole lot better than digging yourself into a hole and having to fight for your life to get out. That's what I did. Ultimately, a lot of people will get their butt handed to them before they're willing to look at the softer side of things, the emotional side of things, instead of the flashy, sexy, ultimately packaged as hard things that our systems are so used to. So it makes sense that we would go towards hard and difficult and restricted and working more when that's where we came from. But ultimately, that's not going to get us to where we want to go. I think that type of drive and mentality led me to never stop, to not accept the symptoms I was in, but I had to put that down whenever I got to this work and surrender and meet symptoms and be willing to go into the dark places to see the motivations behind what I felt like I needed to do, and ultimately see that's what was causing all of these symptoms.
Absolutely. I was trying to remember a quote, but the cave you fear to enter was the treasure that you seek.
Yeah, it ultimately became like these things that have been in the back of my head that I'm afraid to share, the most important things that I could share. When I went to therapy, I had a guy pull me aside with a men's group here in Raleigh, North Carolina called Men on a Journey. It's free, a little shameless plug there. I had two other guys ask me to help create group meeting, and I had a guy pull me aside and said, "Hey, the way you answered that question, do you have trauma?" And I didn't even know what that meant. I thought people have trauma who go to war, and I didn't go to war or in car accidents. I thought the trauma that I had was all these head injuries and car accidents and chronic illness. And I thought that's what the trauma was. The trauma was really the stuff I endured in my early environment as a kid, where there wasn't a lot of emotional attunement and safety. Although I lived in a great family that took care of me and put food on the table and paid my way through college, but there wasn't a lot of meeting of emotional needs. I took on a lot of protective roles to get love, to be seen, to feel safe. Those ultimately are what created the illness I was dealing with and that so many people are dealing with. It's this abandonment of self, this disconnection from the body, and a reliance on external to feel safe through control and force. And that works until it doesn't.
Absolutely. I want to slow down some of those things that you said that I think would resonate with a lot of our listeners. Like if they feel like they have OCD tendencies, a perfectionist in certain ways, or they're so focused on people pleasing. If those things are coming up, this would resonate with them. You talked about slowing down, and I would like to know how you did that in a second. But also this abandonment of self. Like maybe we feel like we've done those things, and this just resonates a lot. How can other people, maybe listeners that are high achievers, and you said not fixing it, but what if this resonates? What's that next steps for them to come face to face with this a little bit?
That's an interesting question because if you are in these survival patterns and you're people pleasing and perfection, you're an intellectualizer, which means I'm going to think my way to safety, I'm not going to feel my body, then you're the majority of people and you likely don't know that. You don't know that they're protective patterns. You think this is who you are. I say that this work is the ultimate red pill because it's the unwinding back to self. It's taking the layers and the mask off that we think are us. And these protective patterns that we're describing is what we think we are until we slow down enough to see these responses and the motivation behind it. Simona Irwin came on my podcast. I didn't know what OCD was. I thought OCD was a serious mental illness. It's more of like a spectrum. We constantly feel like there's something wrong with us, constantly ruminating and scanning our body. Maybe we have chronic symptoms like anxiety or gut issues, insomnia that are affecting us. And so we know that, but we may not see the patterns driving that, putting our system into a dysregulated state, feeling like there's a constant threat. What slowed me down and stopped me in my tracks is when Simona said, you know what keeps us in a sensitized state? Now, sensitizing, they probably need to define that first. That's like hypervigilance. Everything feels like a threat. I'm constantly trying to control the future from the past happening again, the worst possible thing happening again. I'm always in the future or in the past. I'm not here now. I'm washed with adrenaline. I've got all kinds of symptoms, and I'm very sensitive and reactive to everything. That could be food, people, environments, smells, Wi-Fi. The system is really sensitive. And what keeps us locked in that is trying to fix it and trying to figure it out. And when she said that, I realized I've been doing that for 10, 15 years. I hung my hat on being able to fix people and having a solution for everything, having a supplement, having a diet. I thought I was really helping people, and I learned that I was basically reinforcing the trauma that I had learned in a response to the trauma to feel like I was good enough. And I was attracting the same type of people. And instead of meeting them where they're at and helping them work through that, I didn't have any knowledge. I'm not trying to shame myself and beat myself. I was doing the best that I could at the time. And I've always wanted to help people at a deeper level. And this is it. It's not teaching them how to eat better and optimize their body. It's how do we support and meet the body and then work through these patterns that have caused the dysregulation so that we can live the life we want without having to be the doer of our body, like the glue that's holding everything together. If I don't eat these foods and move like this and do these protocols throughout the day, what happens? Ultimately, what we're craving is safety and knowing that whatever comes, we can face it, but I can move through it and I can trust myself no matter what. Not have to do all the right things and be perfect.
That's really helpful, just hearing your experience with it and what you learned and gained. It reminds me a little bit of this story, a client I had yesterday. We were talking about his traumas, his response to these things, and he said, what if I don't want healing? What if I don't want this to get better because then I won't be a high performer as much? Like those dysfunctional things are actually serving me. And I just laughed. I was like, actually, I've heard that before. And yeah, in some way, these things are superpower, but it also feels like it's simultaneously killing us. Have you come across that or felt that yourself?
I've had meltdowns when I have wanted to take pauses with things and put things down because I felt like that's what was holding me up. And that's a pretty fragile state to be in. Ultimately, you're saying I got to have these things to feel safe. I don't feel safe, and I don't know how to feel safe without control. Ultimately, we have to be able to see that. We got to slow down and see little bits. I just get this image of like this dam about to burst, and we're throwing ourselves into the cracks with our hands. But like we're trying to hold, we think we're the glue. We think we're holding it together, and that's fragility, and that's just lack of safety. And that's hard. If we didn't have safety and we're 30, 40, or 50 years old, it's like learning a new language and can feel very uncomfortable and uncertain if we've never experienced that. We're not asking you to eat the whole elephant right now. In the beginning, it's like, can we be the observer and learn to slow down and really observe what's going on in my body when I feel like I need these things, when I'm engaging in that, And we may think that it's helping, but if we slow down, we can see the amount of effort that it takes to hold us together, the rumination, the pain in the body, the symptoms, anxiety. Is this helping or hurting? It's hard to see that, and we have to have a desire to do that. We want to go really slow and titrate. Over time, it's all about education and awareness in the beginning. The more we can see it and get a better picture and clear of how that is actually affecting us, instead of the story we're creating, the system will recognize. It's so important to have a good person that you're working with that can model that to you and can slowly point that out in a compassionate way and provide evidence and education. I don't even like saying the word better. They're just a different way. And your system gets to recognize, do you like this way or not? And you may not be ready for that. And these tools may be really working. If you truly feel like that, I'm not here to convince you one way or the other. But if you want to do the other, I'd love to help you see that.
Yeah. Mitch, how about those of us that hear what you're saying and it sounds pretty and lovely, but I try to slow down and reconnect with my body. I try to do the things that are recommended. It starts with education and awareness and maybe recognizing those patterns instead of fixing it. But experience myself, and I can hear clients in my mind saying, like, I just can't do it. It feels like my body gets really tense. I try to white knuckle it and it doesn't feel like I get anywhere. These are often the people that struggle with mindful yoga or just can't set it down. What would you say to them?
Very normal and expected for someone who's been living in survival for their whole life and is slowing down and starting to feel into the body. I see people all the time that we just pause and put our hand on our chest and maybe feel our breath. And it's like, nope, don't want to do that. So that doesn't mean that's not where we start. It's kind of like a workout. You don't come into the gym and deadlift 500 pounds on day one. You start with the bar, 45 pounds. And we work with the body, not against it. The cool thing about this work is there is no right way to do it, and you are the map. Your nervous system is the map. It's going to tell us what we can do. So everything is information. If it feels really scary to slow down and feel into the body, well, then listen, move with it. How does it want to move? Maybe that's getting into the gym and moving that activation and lifting weights, or maybe that's learning to move in a slower way, like doing Tai Chi and Qigong and feeling the body slowly and seeing what it's like to push and to feel what it's like to exercise more intensely, or to use that energy, or to slow down and move with it really slow when it doesn't feel good. It's like we're sending these little signals of safety to the body by saying, I'm here and I'm with you. I'm not leaving. And if you're uncomfortable, activated, or shut down, or sad, I'm going to be here. You have choice. And let's see what one step looks like today in that direction. If it's intense, we learn how to resource. We learn what allows me to feel good. Can I do a tiny bit? Can I rest for 5 minutes? If that's uncomfortable, go for a walk. Can I do more active recovery type strategies if my system is very active? So we're just meeting the body where it's at. And if it doesn't feel good, that's information that we can adjust and titrate and do little bits. The cool thing is that safety is built through repetition. You don't have to do it all at once. And it's find what works for you. When we start showing up and meeting the body and giving it permission to be as is, my body loves that. Even if we've been in survival and running from the tiger for decades, you will feel that. And here's the thing too. You can also get worse before you get better. When we start paying attention to the body and symptoms go up, people think, oh my God, I'm going backwards. And that's where you need someone who's been through what you've been through, and they can say, nah, this is perfect. This is right on time. We don't want to go outside of capacity and do a whole lot. We do want to be outside of capacity, but not way outside. We want to just dip out and dip back in. That's where a personalized approach and slowing down and noticing what works and what doesn't, that's the way to do it. It's not overwhelming force like we've always done. I certainly brought those strategies into my healing practice and gotten my butt handed to me. But it's like, how can we start and show the system that it's safe to do something different and to slow down?
Absolutely. And I know we all get caught up in these patterns. I recently took my first trip without my family, a 3-week trip to Europe with a friend. And then also with my family, I went to Costa Rica for a month. And both times, like, the reason I love travel so much is You disconnect from everything. In Europe, I didn't have access to any Wi-Fi, nothing. Everything was radio silent. And I came back just like feeling this stillness. And I'm like, oh, I forgot how much I hated technology. Put that right into that clutter. I love how you talk about it's more of a practice and it's about listening and this compassion that we can have for ourselves. Initially, it is like stirring the pot. That's exactly what trauma therapy is that I do with my clients. I tell them it might get worse before it gets better because we are stirring the pot a little bit, but that's normal. Like normalizing that experience and knowing like that will calm down. And so the key, even for me, I'm thinking as you're saying these things, is maintaining some level of that clarity, that peace, that stillness, like after Europe or during Costa Rica. Do you have any personal examples or even from others? How to achieve that more regularly when we get caught up in technology and our jobs and this endless list? Like, how do you do it?
I think it's kind of what we were saying just a minute ago. It's like it's an experiment, and we're going to put things down for a little bit and see what happens. If I'm doing a lot of those, it's wild to watch what happens when we put one down. One that I can think of was I was trained through muscle testing and working with different practitioners like mediums to really listen to my body and respond with what it needs. And that became a compulsive thing for me. I was waking up every day, understanding how I feel, and then responding with a supplement. I'm constantly trying to fix this thing, right? And so I had a therapist, and I'm like, yeah, let's put this on a weekly morning, evening type of schedule. To do that, I freaked out. So that was good information. It's like, wow, this was really hard. No, that's good information to bring back into therapy and to piece that out. And so ultimately, looking at it as an experiment, doing a short break or time away to really assess what's going on here. One thing that I think of is cell phone. I started noticing that if I was stressed, I would reach for that. And I wasn't looking for anything. I was really just distracting myself. And it would make my head hurt. I told my wife, like, hey, take my phone and hide it for me for a day. It was like Saturday or Sunday. I didn't need to be productive. And it was really interesting to be the observer and watch my responses. Every thought that popped into my head or anytime I wanted to distract myself, I reached for it. And it was interesting to watch that. By the end of the day, I had stopped reaching for it and I felt way better. I felt more present. I remember skipping that Saturday and Sunday. Well, Monday morning when I opened up that cell phone and looked at social media, the first post triggered me. And I was thinking about that the rest of the day. It really helped me see, is this something that I need to be aware of? Is this something that's happening in my environment? Or maybe it was the news. And it's like, what version of doom is the algorithm pushing you today? If you really think about it and look around your environment, are you seeing evidence that that's something you need to be concerned about? No, it's doing its job. It's triggering you into being reactive, into say it's us versus them. And then the rest of your day, you're not in your body, you're under threat. And I just want to do that less. And so I think of being an observer, doing little experiments and setting boundaries for yourself for a short period of time. I think it's really easy to go into all or nothing, black or white thinking, and constantly be shifting from I'm doing this or I'm not. What about 5 minutes? What about an hour? What about a day? And what data can I retrieve from that to make better decisions and set better boundaries? Ultimately, boundaries are so I can protect my peace and show up and stay in connection without losing myself or getting burnt out.
Absolutely. I love how you simplify it. It's just talking about, okay, let's just notice. Let's be that observer. Let's experiment. And then the one thing that comes up in every single episode in one way or another is boundaries, like those simple boundaries with ourselves, with others. And it's a way to deepen that intimacy with other people, but also reconnect with ourselves by setting those little boundaries. Going back to your own experience, can you share a time when, actually, you remember how I was talking about my client, he was afraid of losing his superpowers. Did you feel like that came with you? Did you lose some of your ability to perform on a higher level, or did you feel like you swapped those out for better ones?
Oh my God. When you say that, my ability to perform, if I think about what took me to perform back in the day, it was I'm not sleeping, I'm running on adrenaline, I'm going to fast this morning, skip breakfast, do a hard workout. I'm basically going to use my adrenaline and neurotransmitters like cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline to feel good. And that's what felt good because that's what was normal, right? So seeing that and how much that revved me up, and was that actually productive, or was it adding more to stress and I'm going to have to recover for multiple days after that, versus learning to rest, honor my capacity, push when I can push, give myself permission to rest when I can. And wow, I can tell you that at almost 40 years old, I'm stronger than I've ever been. I work out less than I ever did. There's a season for things. There's a time to push. There's a time to rest. If I'm disconnected from my body, I'm looking to the external and I'm doing what they're telling me to do. I got junko on one end and somebody motivating, telling me to do more. That sounds sexy when I'm dysregulated and stressed and I want more energy and I feel like effort is going to get me there. What if we worked with our body and honored what it's telling us, and we become the medicine that we're seeking from the external when we can listen to what our body needs and give it? I mean, that's what gets us out of the hellhole that we can be in. It also makes us better in our relationships. It helps us show up to work better and be present. I'll take presence and a good night's sleep any day and rest over coffee and adrenaline. One's going to kill you a lot quicker than the other.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just want to reinforce some of those things that you said. Honor my capacity and give yourself permission to take breaks. That's hard for most of us to do, and especially we talked about things being sexy. I think that's a good word for it. Our culture is very much hyper-focused on these things, and it's so hard to push against that culture in so many ways. I don't know that I like my culture, or whether it's your national culture, your family culture, whatever it is. Often the trending thing is not usually what is healthy and good for us. Thanks for joining us for part 1 of this pivotal conversation. If you're ready to go from surviving to feeling fulfilled, check out our free resources and coaching programs at fulfillmenttherapy.org. You can also sign up for our weekly emails and our upcoming group coaching, as well as our new blog posts and fresh inspiration to help you feel more connected and energized every week. I'll see you right back here with part 2. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this episode, a quick 30-second share can help someone else find support and help this podcast grow. Leaving a review on Apple Podcasts boosts visibility and keeps the show alive. Your simple acts make a big difference. I'll see you back here each week for more life-changing episodes.